Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Anne and today I'm going to be bringing you my February wrap up. So the month of February I read quite a few books and I'm going to be doing my wrap-ups I think a little bit differently, so I'm not going to go through all of the statistics because I don't think that's actually a lot of fun. So we're just going to go through and talk about all the books that I read in the month and review them. A lot of these are in vlogs that have been uploaded on my channel, so make sure you go and check those out as well. I'll make sure to, as I'm talking about it, link them up above and down below. But the first book that I read in the month of February was Time Traveler's Limbo by C.H. Lynn, and this is a short novelette that I gave 5 stars. So in this one we're following our main character we're following her in her past and present timeline. And in her present timeline, she is an elderly woman and she is going back in time as a time traveler to watch important moments throughout her life. So when she met the love of her life, when he proposes, things like that. And in this present timeline, she's the only one left. And in the past timeline, we're watching our main character learn about these time travelers who've come back in time to warn the world that things are not going very well and what happens when the government ignores them. And I loved it. It made me cry. It's very, very short. It is about 50 pages or something and it is just beautiful. I want a 600-page book of this because there's so much pain and trauma, but the feeling of hope throughout this story is just so beautiful and I just loved it so much. The next book that I read was Howl You Doing by Jacqueline Hyde, and I gave this a 4-star read for me. So this is the second book in the Monster Bay series, and in this one we're following our main character Doyle and Whitney. Doyle is the sort of manager of this hotel that was created back in book 1, and we're following Doyle as he comes into sort of an enemies to lovers sort of dynamic with the head chef of this hotel, and we just watch them fight and growl at each other, and it's just a really fun time and I loved it so much. I did find that Doyle felt like a very different character within this one because we were in his perspective, so we were seeing things a lot differently than what we were seeing them in book 1, because Doyle is very present in book 1, but I loved seeing Audrey and Vlad and I loved meeting some of the new characters throughout this story, so I'm very excited to continue with this one. But basically it's just this fun, rompy, smutty time. And it's just really fun and funny to read. It was just a really fun time. So the next book that I read was Whirlwind by Kayla Grass, and I gave this a 4-star read. I have read a lot of Kayla Grass's books and I am absolutely obsessed with them. She predominantly writes about plus size characters, which is great, and we love to see that representation. And in this one we're following our main character who is obsessed with storms. So she is in college studying to be a meteorologist, so she studies weather, things like that, and she has been accepted to help her professor in this very big sort of tornado chase that they're going after. And we're following her as she's kind of obsessed with her professor, and he is also very attracted to her, but it is this forbidden romance. And we're just watching them as they go on this adventure chasing, storm chasing, and it's just a really fun time. I know nothing about storms. I know nothing about hurricanes or anything like that, or twisters or anything like that, because I live in a country that we don't really have those. But it was really interesting to follow them and kind of learn all this stuff. I know Kayla put a lot of work and research into this to kind of get it as accurate as possible, so it was really fun. The smut was great. I really enjoyed it. We have a little bit of a light breeding theme or / kink in this one, which is great. I had a fun time with that one. It is just a fun smutty time and it was really good. I really enjoy Kayla's writing. The next book that I read was Hope and Lies by C.H. Lynn. So as you can see, I am obsessed with C.H. Lynn. I love a lot of her stories. And this is her debut novel, and C.H. Lynn actually sent this to me as being part of her street team and she signed it, so massive thank you to Cheyenne. I really love it and I gave this a 4-star read, although I think upon a reread this would be a 5-star because I was in the middle of doing a lot of vlogs and getting very stressed out about my reading. I wasn't giving this the time of the day that it needed. But this is Cheyenne's debut novel, as I just mentioned, and it is book 1 in the Aberdea series. I think that's how you pronounce it. But in this one, we're following multiple characters. And in this world, this is a dystopian sort of fantasy sci-fi. And generations ago, a plague ravaged the earth, and kind of these grey stars rose and became the governing body. And in this world, we have all of our people who end up having this like gem on their forehead, and that kind of puts them into their caste systems. So the grey is like the top of the top, they're sort of the government. Then we've got the black, who are like the army. Then we've got blue, who are like doctors and lawyers and the really smart people. We've got orange, which do different stuff. Red is sort of like the police, that sort of thing. So it's really, really interesting. But we have also the white caste, which is like the undesirable sort of people within this world, and they end up being put in a camp because they are told that they are dangerous and they are not good for the community. So in this one, we're following multiple different characters throughout. So we've got a timeline where 70 years ago, we're following someone who is sort of joining a rebellion because she realizes that there's certain things that are not right and she's been lied to her whole life. And we're following that leading up into kind of the present timeline, and in the present timeline. And we're following Julia, who ends up being going into her coding, believing that she's going to be given her blue gem in her head, and she gets put into the white caste system. So she's juggling with that, and we're just following the story as Julia is trying to understand what happened, why she was put in this caste, why she has these maybe secret powers. And then we're also following another person who is part of a rebellion, and they are kind of trying to keep themselves safe because they are in danger and will be put to death or put into a camp if they get caught. And it's so good. There's a lot of information that goes on into this, but it is so good. So it is written for adults, but you can definitely read it as a young adult. It's definitely like eligible for teenagers. There is no real sort of smut or anything in here. It's not spicy. Shan kind of doesn't write spice, which is also really, really good. And I just love this. The atmosphere, the world building is amazing. It is a chunky boy and the writing is quite small in here, but once you give it the time of day, you're going to love the story. And I started to connect things, and it's just such a good time. So I'm going to put this book down now and stop squealing about this book because I love it, and I don't think you need to hear more about it. I think you just definitely need to pick it up. The next book that I read was Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. So this is in my book battle vlog, so I'll link that up above and down below if you want to check it out. But this is a Mulan retelling of what if Mulan had to travel to the underworld to save Captain Zhang. And it basically picks up directly from the attack with the Huns and the war with the Huns, and kind of goes from there. I did find that it was fine. It was a 3-star read for me. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would because I definitely feel like I didn't really know all the different characters in here, because it kind of just throws you into the action and you are expected to know everything that happened within Mulan. I think it would be good if you watched Mulan, kind of stopped it at that point and then read this book. But I didn't do that. I just picked it up. The audiobook is pretty good. I did enjoy the audiobook, but again, it's not something that I feel like I need to keep. It was fine. It was a 3-star read. It wasn't the worst and it wasn't the best. And that is, yeah, if you want my full thoughts, definitely check out that vlog. Next one that I read was A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and I gave this a 4-star read. So in this one, we're following our main character, Jack, and he is living on the mainland, and he is studying and kind of becoming a professor because he is really talented with music. And he gets called back to his home island by the sort of ruler of this island to help with something. And he goes back and finds out that girls are going missing. So he has to help figure out what's happening. And we're following different perspectives in this one again. So we're following Jack and his sort of love interest, and then we're following another couple, which I really, really enjoyed following as well. I found that with all of these perspectives, I really enjoyed being in each perspective. I liked seeing the atmosphere. The writing is beautiful and purple prose, and it's just great. And I felt like this island was such a character within the story. I just really, really enjoyed it. So thank you, Pashi, for picking this one as my 12 Rex by 12 Friends for the month of February. So I really enjoyed this, and I'll definitely be continuing with this duology by Rebecca Ross to definitely find out what happens, because it is so beautiful. I really loved it. The next one that I read was a reread, but this was a very happy reread for me. Oh, and also if you want to check out my more thoughts on A River Enchanted, definitely check out my Dante's Inferno reading vlog, because it's featured in there. The next book that I picked up was again also involved in Dante's Inferno's readathon vlog, so make sure you check that out. But this was a reread, and it is A Court That's Cruel and Lovely by Stacia Stark. So I've talked about this plenty of times before, but this is about Priska, and Priska is living in a world where at the age of 25 you get your magic back, because when you are born you have magic, but the government takes it away from you because it's dangerous. And your magic kind of is supposed to help rule the country. So when you're at the age of 25, you get a portion of your magic back, and you then have your magic to help your community. But in this one, Priska still has her magic, and that is dangerous, because she will be put to death alongside her family if they find out that she has her magic. So she goes on the run with the help of mercenaries to get away and save herself, basically. And I just love this. As you can see, I tabbed this up. I love Priska and Lorien. I love the relationship, the tension between them, the enemies to lovers. There is a knife to throat scene, which I absolutely adore. And I just love the fan family. I love how much of a turn the story takes about halfway. And I just had the best time with this. And again, if you want full thoughts on this, it's in my Brie vlog, and it's also in Dante's Inferno's readathon vlog. So make sure you check out those vlogs. Again, I'll link them up above and down below if you want to check them out. But again, I love the series, and I'm so happy that I continue with it. And getting this reread was just 10 times better reading it a second time than the first time. The next one that I read is one that I've been talking about a lot as well, and saying that I needed to read, and that is Heliaco Rising by CC Davy. This is another signed edition by the author. I met her at Armageddon last year, and I got her whole series. But this is the indie covers. They are now being traditionally published in Australia and New Zealand, so it's very exciting for CC, and the new covers are stunning as well. But in this one, we're following Emilia Silvers, and she has been taken in as a ward by Lord Draken, and she's kind of raised to become his son's wife. So she's raised to be obedient, to listen, to do as she's told, and to then raise children and get married to her future husband. But certain things happen where the kingdom of the witchlings are beginning to rise, and a new kingdom decides to come and try and get an alliance with Emilia and Lord Draken, and kind of Emilia's story takes off from there. It is so interesting, and I loved it so much. I am obsessed with this book. I am so sad that I don't have the traditionally published so I could annotate them, because I really want to annotate this, but I don't want to ruin this copy, because I feel like this is going to be a very special edition of this book when it gets really big, because there is a Netflix production in the works for this series. But this is a male-female romance. This smut is great, but it's definitely more of a dark fantasy story with smut dotted throughout. This is very dark. It does take a dark turn. Again, there is a lot of trigger warnings in here, so please be aware going in. But this again is involved in my Dante's Inferno reading vlog, so make sure you check it out if you want my full thoughts. But I am so obsessed with this series, and I'm so excited to continue, because I am obsessed. I'm very surprised at where the author took the end of this book. So I'm very intrigued to see how that sort of scenario is going to lead into book 2 and book 3. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I am intrigued to see where it goes. The next one that I read was Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver, and this is a 5-star read for me. I love this, and I'm so sad that this is the end of the Ruinous Love trilogy. But basically in this one, we're following Fionn and Rose. Fionn is a doctor who is trying to hide a dark side within himself, and Rose works at the circus, but she also kind of is a serial killer on the side. And it's their romance. So Rose ends up getting injured and kind of falls into Fionn's lap, and he decides that he is going to take her in and kind of keep her safe and protect her and make sure she's all right, because the circus has to carry on without her. so she has to kind of stay in this town where she got hurt. And it's a friends to benefits to lovers sort of scenario. It is so, so good. I was a bit worried going in with the timelines kind of following Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark, and I was very intrigued to see how the author was going to kind of work with that, because we see a lot of Fionn and Rose's story within those two books. So I was very intrigued to see how she was going to work with those timelines, and she did it really, really well. I really love this. It's definitely not as dark as I would have expected for this one, but I still had the best time. Barbara is the best animal side character I've ever met, and it was just a great time. So yeah, again, this is in my Dante's Inferno reading vlog, so make sure you check out that one as well, so you can get my full thoughts as I was reading it. But yeah, I had the best time with it. I do still think Butcher and Blackbird is my favourite of the series, but it is an amazing series altogether, and I will definitely be rereading it again and again and again. The next book that I read was Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent, and I gave this a 4-star read. So this is the novella between Serpents on the Wings of Night and Curses and the and Ashes on the Star-Cursed King. So this follows a very dominant couple within Ashes, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It is basically a story about a girl who is a doctor slash scientist, and she is trying to find a cure for a sickness that is taking out her whole town, and she comes face to face with a vampire. She makes a deal with him that she will give him 6 roses for vials of his blood so she can study it and try and find a cure for this sickness, and we watch their romance blossom. I did really, really enjoy this, and I'm very intrigued to see how they are involved in the next book. But I feel like I didn't love the romance as much as I was expecting. I thought that because it was so short, everything kind of wrapped up really quickly, but I did enjoy it, and I do wish we kind of had a perspective from Vale, because I think that would have been really, really interesting to kind of see his insights and kind of see everything from his point of view. But it was a 4-star read, and it was still a fun time. The next book that I read was A Kingdom That's Cursed and Empty by Stacia Stark. So this is book 2 in the Kingdom of Lies series. So after my reread of A Court That's Cruel and Lovely, I definitely had to pick this one up because I am obsessed with this series, and boy, book 2 is amazing. The tension between Lorien and Prisca after what happens at the end of book 1, seeing their relationship kind of go through this tumultuous scenario. Watching the tension between them. Book 2 directly picks up all after book 1, so immediately it goes straight into book 2 from book 1, which I love. I love when books do that, so you don't have to try and there's this big time jump and you try and figure out what's happened within that time. It immediately follows on, and I just loved it. Again, the found family. This is definitely exploring the world a little bit more. The world is starting to open up. We're learning a lot of new things, and it's just so good. This smut is smutting in here, and I just had the best time. So again, Dante's Inferno reading vlog, it's all in there, all my up-to-date thoughts, all my thoughts in real time. And again, I tabbed the heck out of this book. I am so obsessed, and I love it so much. The next book that I read was Fated in Blood by L.A. McGuinness, and I gave this 5 stars. So this is a vampire romance reverse harem by L.A. McGuinness. I think I've talked about her quite a few times throughout my videos on this channel, but this is her latest series that is being released since when we're following our main character Evangeline, and she is on a mission to find her sister, and she believes her sister has been kidnapped by vampires, so she's on a mission trying to find her and figure out why she was taken. And she ends up on a rescue mission for her sister and gets turned into a vampire. And now she has to deal with that with 2 grumpy guys. One's a king, one's grumpy and hates her because of who she is and who her family is, and we're watching as she's trying to save her sister and take out a tyrant ruler. It is so good. I loved it. Immediately we kind of get thrust into this enemies to lovers dynamic with the tension is really good, really high, and I just had a really good time with it. I loved the banter between Evangeline and Reardon, and then I also loved how combative and the tension between Blake and Evangeline. So we watch Evangeline as she's trying to deal with why she was turned into a vampire and the bloodlust, and how the bloodlust affects her in different ways, like her libido and all this sort of stuff, and kind of figuring out who she wants to be with and that sort of thing. And it's just really, really good, and I'm very excited to continue with this series. I've already read book 2. I finished that this month, so I'll be talking about that in my March wrap up. But it is really, really exciting, and I love this series so much, and I'm very excited to continue. The next 3 books I'm just going to talk about really, really quickly, but they are Havenfall, Blackwood and Black Wings Beating. They are also included in my book battle vlog, so make sure you check that out. So we have Havenfall by Sarah Holland. This is a fantasy where our main character, Maddie, is the niece of a innkeeper of the realms. So this inn is a place where the realms can come together, and it's sort of this neutral ground, and Maddie is the niece and she wants to take over one day, but then a murder happens and she has to take over that she's not ready for, and lots of secrets come out. I gave this a 3-star. It was fine. I just found that for such a short book it kind of dragged just that little bit, but it was definitely an interesting story. Then we read Blackwood by Stage Holiday. This was a 3-star read for me. It is a thriller about 2 girls 23 years later still dealing with something that happened to them in the woods, and one of our main characters ends up meeting one of the guys who attacked them in the woods 23 years later. And she's on a mission trying to figure out why he did what he did and why he's back in town now. And it was fine. It was quite predictable. 3-star read for me. It wasn't... Was it a 3-star or did I give it a 2-star? No, 3-star. 3-star. I just found it to be a little bit predictable. I guessed everything at the end, and I kind of saw a lot of stuff coming. I didn't really like the writing. I didn't really like the characters. They were all really annoying and really dumb, and yeah, didn't like it. And the last one was Black Wings Beating by Alex North. This is a 2-star read for me. I read this whole thing, but I wish I DNF'd it. But by the time I realized that I should have DNF'd it, I was way too far into this story. But this is a YA fantasy where we have a brother and sister who are on a mission to get this mythic bird to protect someone. I don't even know. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the world. I don't understand the world, and it just wasn't a fun time for me. So it definitely was a 2-star. But more thoughts on that in my Dante's Inferno reading vlog. So that is all the books that I read in the month of February. Let me know in the comments below what you read in the month of February and what your favorite book in February was. I would love to know. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. Bye.